AATBirds Weekly Report is the Eagle news, notes, and analysis you need. It's all birds, all the time.
And welcome to another edition of the AATBirds Inside Swoop. Chip is here, Johnny's here, and we're going to talk. So I know the Eagles have a game here. We haven't discussed it. We're going to discuss it, and then we're going to get into the matchup. But we have to discuss the whole Jalen AJ thing. We have to bring it up because what I did was I had put in the title, Jalen and AJ are fine. And you know,
they're fine.
They're fine. And I think it's just getting blown out of proportion. But again, that's what happens when we get into the, you know, when you really take a look at the sports media and everything along the lines of that, you're going to get something that's said that gets blown out of proportion, and they're going to run with it. They're going to run with it all week, and it's what they have done. And you don't really hear too much about the game yet, which hopefully you're going to start hearing a little bit about that. But I just wanted to bring it up and bring it up like this. The passing game, we said it last week, and look, the way I see it is this. Jalen has become a little too hesitant. He needs to be able to. I know we talked about too many turnovers last year. This season, a lot of turnovers. But the way that you have to look at it is there's shots there that he needs to take, whether it's also working play action. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. He needs to start pulling the trigger. And that's why I expect it to happen this week. I expect him to go to AJ early. I expect him to go to Devontae early. I expect it to be a heavy target game for those guys because Pittsburgh's run defense is pretty good. So, you know, we'll see along the lines of that. But I think it's just blown out of proportion. And I think BG's words were a little misconstrued because sometimes when he talks, you know, he's saying one thing, and again, they're going to take it, twist it the way that they want to mold it to fit the narrative they want it to fit. But to me, I think it's been cleared up the last couple of days since it first happened on Monday night when BG was on his radio show. But to me, like I said, in the title, AJ and Jalen are fine, and they're fine.
Yeah, look, so this is now exhausting to be around. I understand the idea of there's drama around it, but AJ Brown came out and said, no, he goes, this is the issue. He goes, our passing game needs work. He goes, it's not going to work in the playoffs. Jordan Mailata, nope, leave it alone. Brandon Graham, look, yes, he's still around the team, but he's not around the team as much. He misspoke. Jalen Hurts said as much. He misspoke. He should not have said what he said. I think the most accurate analysis that I have seen about Jalen Hurts, and I'd be curious to see some all 22 on this, is lately, and you kind of mentioned it already, Johnny, saying that he's kind of afraid to throw the ball. I think the most accurate representation is he is waiting for guys to be wide open before he throws it. He's not throwing them open. And I think that kind of ties into the fear of making a mistake mentality, because from the first couple of weeks of the season when he was, very turnover prone. So I wonder if it's an overcorrection to not make those mistakes again.
Yeah, I think the overcorrection is definitely right. And listen, they could do so many things, the way that they're running the ball, the play action, and all this kind of stuff that needs to start happening because it's going to open up the offense. You're going to be able to dictate more when you're able to do that. And I know a lot of people say, and I know Jalen made comments today talking about, this is Jalen Hurts. It's my offense. It's the way I run it. Some people may not like that, but we win. And I get that. I understand that.
And AJ Brown said the same thing. AJ Brown basically came flat out and said, yes. He goes, I want to win. Yes. You're only going to, he goes, we were 10-1, and then you started to see the wheels fall off. He goes, we can see these patterns starting to happen because we're becoming a one-dimensional team, and we need to fix the passing game. I don't think he was saying it accusatory. I think he was saying it very matter-of-factly, not throw me the ball, throw me the ball. It was, we need to fix the passing game in order to win games.
Yeah. No, and you need to, listen, I think another thing people are kind of getting at, going a little over the top with it. Does Jalen need to pass for more than 108 yards? Yes. But to make it seem like he needs to be thrown for 300 yards and you rush him for 200 yards, it doesn't work that way. When your rush offense, the way that it's been playing and the way that you've been gaining yards,
Yep.
to me, if Jalen gets 180, 190 passing yards, all right, I'm good. Let's go. Because if you're getting 180, 190 rushing yards, you're not going to have 450, 500 yards. This isn't college. So I think people get a little bit over zealous when they talk about the offense, the pass offense. And listen, it's not going to be Peyton Manning type of offense where they throw the ball, an air raid type. This is not the way the offense is run. But if you're able to get a little more passing yards and especially move the ball a little bit down the field, do some one-on-one shots with Devontae and AJ, do some things in the middle of the field. There's things that we want to see, and it doesn't equate 300 passing yards, but hey, it's going to give us a little bit more of a rhythm type of offense, getting the ball down the field, doing that kind of stuff is what we want to see. And I think that's one thing that I think AJ's comments is the passing. They want to be a lot better at throwing the ball, kind of like they were in 2022. But
I think it's important because, look, right now, Saquon Barkley is the MVP of the league. There's really no denying that at this point. But there comes a time where, and you're seeing it with Derrick Henry, because for a while, Derrick Henry was the MVP of the league. You're now seeing it where teams start to game plan, and they've been really shutting him down the last couple of weeks.
mm-hmm.
You have to have that second and third dimension to your team. And right now, the passing game is just not clicking. And it's not because of, people not being open. It's not because it's because it's just not. I think that they are so focused on running the football, which is our bread and butter. It's great, but you have to add those secondary elements in order to be unpredictable and be extremely successful at a Super Bowl caliber level.
Yeah. And, we'll see how it happens. We'll see what goes on. I think they're going to have a great game against the Steelers, which we're going to get into here. And I think the biggest thing when you look at this Steelers game, this matchup with Pittsburgh, it's going to be a physical dogfight. It's going to be, it's going to be super physical like the Baltimore game. It's going to be, punch for punch, because both of these teams like to see, they like to play this way. And I'm excited to see it because Pittsburgh defense is one of the best in the league. The Eagles defense is one of the best in the league.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of factors. Now, I know Pittsburgh looks like George Pickens may not play, which is a huge loss for their pass game. He's their best weapon offensively, but it's going to be interesting to see how they stop, because the Pittsburgh's been able to run the ball recently really well with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. So it's going to be interesting.
Which sets up Russ Wilson with the play action pass, which he has been successful with his entire career. You have to be able to almost shut down the run to make that play action pass not a relevant threat.
And listen, it's a lot of people want to say the Russell Wilson's never lost to the Eagles and everything. And I get that. I understand that. But Vic Fangio has had some success against Russell Wilson, whether he was the defensive coordinator of the 49ers, whether he was the head coach of the Chicago Bears, whether it was he was the defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins. He's had success. He's seen Russell Wilson. So I expect a good game plan from him as a defensive coordinator. I have confidence in the defense that they're going to be able to get one pressure on Russell Wilson. Listen, Russell Wilson still can be a little bit elusive, but he's not that Russell Wilson elusive from 3, 4, 5 years ago. So if you can try and get some extra pressure on him, get some sacks, put him in third and long situations, it's going to benefit you as a defense. And, I'm really interested to see Jalen Carter going up against the interior offensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I believe, I'm trying to think, I know Sayamalo's on the inside. I'm not sure. I think he's on the right side. So he'd be going up against Jalen Carter with their center Frazier. So it's going to be interesting to see. That's a big matchup I'm trying to see there. Give me a matchup that you'd like to see in terms of, offense, defense.
I think that one of the most important matchups is, and I've been, watching the the show on HBO, Hard Knocks. I've been watching the Hard Knocks, in season stuff. So I'm getting, my glimpses into the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're doing the AFC North in their entirety this year, which is kind of cool. So I think one matchup, and look, I kind of always tend to move myself this way. I think that Freiermuth is a really good tight end.
Going with the tight end again, another Penn State tight end.
I know it's so predictable. I'm not trying to do it, but I think for so long the Philadelphia Eagles had struggled against tight ends that it's kind of like that one thing that I really watch for at this point. And I think that, look, our linebackers have been playing exceptional, but it's so much more than that. Is Reed Blankenship going to play? And if he does play, what level is he going to play at?
So the injury report has been really good for the Eagles. All 53 players practice. So everyone is practicing. There's nobody out of practice. It looks like they're going to be fully healthy.
Which is phenomenal. I mean, Sidney Brown didn't play last week. Tristan McCollum played really, really well. But again, Freiermuth, and again, having a quarterback that has the play action pass, that knows how to hit his tight ends when their lead wide receiver is out. I mean, the defense has got to have a big game. And Freiermuth is the kind of guy who could all of a sudden just go off. And then as he weakens the back half of things, Najee Harris can keep pounding away. So I think our linebackers versus the physicality of the Steelers is the matchup that I'm going to watch.
Yeah, another one I want to see too is like when you take a look at the defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Joey Porter Jr. is their best corner.
Yeah.
And the one thing with him is he does get called for a lot of penalties. He is very handsy.
A lot.
And if he's going up against a AJ Brown, it's going to be very interesting to see because those are both physical corners. AJ is the bigger version. But let's see, the Eagles may be able to get some calls if he's handsy and he's grabbing hold of his jersey. It's going to be interesting to see. Now, they also have a slot corner rookie, Beanie Bishop, who's been playing very well. So if Devontae is lining up in the slot, let's see, how that matchup goes against a rookie. Because, listen, every level of their defense, they've got really solid players. Minkah Fitzpatrick on the back end. They have TJ Watt. They have Cameron Hayward on the line there. Linebacker, Landon Roberts is one of their linebackers who does really well against the run. Peyton Wilson, a rookie, has been playing really well. So their defense is very, very talented. The Eagles are just going to have to be able to play assignment football, hat on a hat, to be able, kind of do what they've been doing. And I think it's huge.
And it's kind of also along those same lines. Again, just mentioning the physicality of this game. This game is going to be physical. I'm very curious to see TJ Watt versus Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. I think it's a real test Lane Johnson is, in my opinion, the best tackle in football. And Jordan Mailata is not that far behind him. So I'm curious to look, Jordan Mailata has really held up against some of these elite edge rushers. I kind of want to see it again. But also Cam Hayward versus our middle three guys. Because Cam Hayward is destructive. And I need Cam Jurgens to kind of elevate his game for this week. Not saying that Cam Jurgens hasn't been really good, but Cam Hayward is another level of defensive tackle.
He's like what Fletcher Cox was. He's a solid interior veteran defensive lineman who, if your technique is not solid, he's going to beat you. And, that's one thing to, keep an eye on because, listen, their defensive line is so good. Keanu Benton, young player out of Wisconsin, they have solid in their rotation and they've got plenty of players. And that's what Pittsburgh's known for. They've always been known for defense. They always have very solid, stout defenses. So
sure.
It's going to really be interesting to see.
And I think even the coaching matchup, right? Like the defense is one thing. And, I'm really trusting Vic Fangio, and I like the idea of having an old school guy like Vic Fangio to be in one of these physical drag out games. But I think also coaching. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season. He's not going to have a losing season this year. He's putting his team on pace to not only win the North, but potentially win his division. I mean, the Chiefs have to lose a couple games, but it could still happen. The Bills have to lose a couple games. I mean, there's still hope there. Mike Tomlin is a no-nonsense kind of coach, whereas as much as we've not really ridden him too much the last couple weeks, Nick Sirianni has the tendency to try to overthink things and try to outsmart people. Mike Tomlin isn't one you can outsmart. Mike Tomlin is going to do the thing that you expect him to do. He's going to be planned no matter what, and he's going to be physical. So if you're trying to be cute with plays or fourth down calls or whatever, this is not the team to do it against. The Pittsburgh Steelers are a physical, punch you in the mouth, want to knock you to the ground kind of team. And Nick Sirianni's got to be prepared for that and know that going in.
Yeah, no, you have to. And, another thing that was interesting that I saw, so I happened to look it up. So we all know 2 years ago, AJ Brown's game against the Steelers, had a fantastic game. 6 catches, 156 yards, 3 touchdowns. Well, I looked up his career versus the Steelers. So he's played 2 games, and I had posted it today. Played 2 games against the Steelers, one in 2020 with the Titans and one in 2022 with the Eagles. And the stat line on those 2 games, there was one game in the middle there between that he missed, but the stat line on those 2 games, 12 catches, 309 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So what that points to is he's in for a pretty big game. So, and if that's
with all of the talking that's happened, if he doesn't go for 150, I'm going to be blown away.
Is that a quick little?
Yeah, I mean, it's about as much of a segue as we can possibly do, but we're going to get there. I may ramp it up.
No, it's just like I look at this game and I know people like to say, oh, well, if there's a game that it's okay to lose. I'm not saying it's okay to lose AFC games or any games, but AFC games are one. But the way that you look at it, and I want to kind of take a look at the NFC as a whole. So the Detroit Lions play the Bills this week. Of course, the Eagles have the Steelers, and I believe the Vikings. I forget who the Vikings are actually playing against. Because the Minnesota is 10-2, and they're right. So the Vikings play Monday night against the Bears. So the way that I look at these 3, because to me, these 3 teams are the 3 teams that are fighting for the number 1 seed. And the Eagles, of course, we know have Pittsburgh, have the Commanders, Dallas, and the Giants left.
Yeah.
The Vikings have the Bears at the Seahawks, the Packers at home, and at the Lions. Those are their last 4 games. They're same record as the Eagles. And the Detroit Lions, who are 1 game better than both of the teams, they finish off with the Bills this week. Then they have at the Bears, at the 49ers, and then home against the Vikings. So it's going to be interesting because, we'll see if for some reason the Lions slip up here and the Eagles and Vikings keep winning, it's going to come down to the end of the year, and it's going to be interesting. And listen, I like that. I kind of wish there were still 2 buys, but unfortunately, with the extra playoff team, there's only 1 buy that the teams get, and it's huge because you don't have to play that wild card game. It saves you from playing an extra game, and you get the divisional game at home. But it is a save yourself in that extra bye week. It's that extra rest that's big time crucial. But it's going to be fun. What do you think in terms of how do you think it's going to play out? Since we have basically almost a month left, a little under a month left in the season, I want how it's going to finish in terms of.
I think if the Lions were going to falter, they would have done it when Aiden Hutchinson went down. They would have done it in some of these tougher games. Now, I do think that they're going to lose 1 or 2 games down the stretch. I would like the Eagles to secure the 1 seed.
But they essentially have to win out, and that's going to.
That's kind of my point. I have the Eagles with the 2 seed, which is kind of where they are. And they've got a couple tough games. Like this game this week is a tough game on paper. Now, I'm not saying it's a loss by any means. I do think that it's going to be a physical game. I think it's going to be an enjoyable game. But The Lions have kind of proven that they can attack you in so many different ways. They can attack you defensively. Jared Goff is having an MVP-like season. He's also got two absolutely sensational running backs. I mean, he's got all of the things that he needs. That is a very complete team with a humongous me on their shoulder. I think that the Lions will end up winning the bye. But I don't know that they'll make it to the NFC Championship.
Interesting. Now, I do say it's also interesting this too, looking at the Eagles. The weird part is this, not the weird part, but just something that's kind of like, I don't like it a whole heck of a lot. So Eagles finish with the 2 seed. So whatever the record is, if they finish with the 2 seed, which most likely if they win a division, they're going to get the 2 seed with the other 2 divisions and the way that they're shaping out, which most likely the teams are going to be either a game or 2 above 500. So they're going to be locked into that 2 seed. So they would play the 7th seed in the wild card matchup. Well, right now the 7th seed is the Washington Commanders. Does that give you any type of
to play them a third time?
To play them a third time. Now I know we played the Giants a third time in 2022. But is that any type, because it's a divisional opponent, you guys know each other, so it's just, I know it's at home, but what do you think about playing a division opponent for the third time? I don't really like it, especially if you win the first 2 games. If they were to somehow,
I don't like it. But I will say that the 7 seed notoriously is a bad football team. When the Eagles had it,
they're not guaranteed to make the playoffs because they have a pretty tough schedule, and there's some teams that are trying to eke their way into the playoffs, whether it's the Falcons, whether it's one of the NFC West teams. So they're not guaranteed. I know they're 8-5, but a couple of losses, if they slip up with a couple of losses, they could be looking on the outside and not making the playoffs. So it's not definite, but as of right now,
it's going to be the rush at the end. Let's just, in my mind, we got to take care of one thing at a time. Let's just win the division. Let's guarantee a home game.
And they can win the division
and take care of that.
They can win the division this week with a win and a Washington Commanders loss to the New Orleans Saints. So it is a possibility.
Which is the Saints team that is kind of pissed off lately.
Yeah, but Jake Haener is going to be the starting quarterback. So
yeah, I don't think that Dan Quinn loses to Jake Haener.
Is that going to be? Well, we'll get into it.
I have so many potential Ulecka locks.
It's time for the Ulecka locks of the week. Who's your lock?
So that was loud. I like that. Got to put it a little bit louder. So brings us to our Ulecka locks. Last week, I know we talked about it on the post-game
I was wrong.
recap. You what?
I was wrong.
Yeah, you were wrong. Green Bay did not win against Detroit. I was right because I said Alabama.
Speaking into existence, I wanted it to happen.
Knocked out of the college football playoffs. So I was right there. You were wrong. Since I was right, I will go second, and I will let you go first. And what is your Ulecka lock for this Week 15 slate of football?
Well, I've already mentioned quite a few things that we can discuss. But
Drew Lock will not play this week, though.
I know. And that is a Ulecka lock that he will not play this week. And I am not putting any money on Tommy DeVito beating anybody.
By the way,
other than a mob.
The end of that Saints-Giants game was like watching Bad News Bears play baseball. It was awful.
Did you see how cheap the tickets were?
Yeah.
Anywho, that's enough time talking about the Giants today. I'm going to stay local in our game. I'm going to go with our Eagles game.
Okay.
And I'm going to do a double pick.
Oh, boy.
AJ Brown will have 150 yards catching. Jalen Hurts will have at least 1 interception.
Interesting. Okay.
Because I think that after everything that's going on, he will try to force the ball a little bit.
Okay.
I don't want to go as far as to say 2, but I do think 1.
Speaking of interceptions, the one crazy stat that I saw was, do you know the last Eagles corner with an interception? hint, it's not this year.
No, I mean, I can tell you it's definitely not this year. No.
Last year, Keely Ringo against the Giants.
Jesus Christ.
So, I'm not going with this game. I'm going a different game. I'm going with a team that the Eagles had just played in the Carolina Panthers. And I am going Chuba Hubbard over 150 rushing yards and a touchdown against the Dallas Cowboys.
I would very much like him to do that because that will put me into my fantasy semifinals.
Well, the good part is people who actually succeed in fantasy all year round get buys, which I have a bye this week. So I get to just sit back and not worry about my team this week and get ready for next week.
Yeah, I am in third place in both of my leagues.
Well, you have 2 buys?
No.
Oh, okay.
Third place.
Well, now that brings us to prediction time. And the Philadelphia Eagles and Pittsburgh Steelers, what we see, how we see the game playing. I'll start here since you went first with the Ulecka lock. And it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a tough, rough and tough, punch you in the mouth type of game. We know that. It's going to be a physical game. And I have the Philadelphia Eagles squeezing out a 21-17 victory. And it's going to be it's going to be an edge of your seat type of game. It's not going to be a relaxing sit back that we've seen a couple times this season. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a tough matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the Eagles will prevail. They will beat Russell Wilson for the first time. And they will keep the Pittsburgh Steelers on their winless streak in Philadelphia that they've had since 1965. Now it's to you, Chip. What do you see the game?
I have the Eagles winning.
Okay.
I just think that there are so many weapons on this Eagles team that they really, like, if you go position by position, most of the positions you have to give the edge to the Eagles. But I think that this is an absolute brawl. I'm not even going as high as you did. I am going with a final score of 17. Now 17-14.
17-14. Oof. That is a tough score. That's a low scoring, one of those old type of games there. Let me just think here. So 17-14. Okay. All right. I like it. But hopefully the Eagles get the win. That's what we want to see. But we'll be back again to break it down. The post-game recap is all depending. So we will, of course, we may do it on Monday night instead of Sunday night just because the game ends, everything. I potentially may go to the game. So there's a lot of factors when it comes into play. My work had a raffle. So if I win, I'll be going to the game. So if I don't win, then maybe we'll have a post-game show.
Real quick, Mr. Fantasy Guru.
Yes.
In my championship quarterfinal.
Mr. Bower.
In my fantasy quarterfinal, okay, I have Saquon Barkley as one of my running back spots. I have Josh Jacobs as one of my running back spots. I have James Conner in my flex spot. I have Chuba Hubbard on my bench.
You play Chuba Hubbard because they're playing the Dallas Cowboys.
Correct, but who do I replace him with? I want to say maybe James Conner, but he's the focal point of that defense, or that offense. James Conner is going against New England.
Yeah, I just switch him. I switch him with James Conner. I just do it.
Okay.
So.
If I lose my quarterfinal, I'm going to kick your ass.
Hopefully you don't. Well, good luck. But we'll be back to talk about the recap of the Eagles game. So, with that, we always end it with 2 words. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
This is Matt Ware. Hey, for all the Eagle content you need, go follow All About the Birds. They do a damn thing. Check them out.
Hey, Eagles fans, I may be in Tampa, but I know where to find the best Eagles content out there. Check out my friends at All About the Birds. Philadelphia, what's up? This your boy Freddie Mitchell, aka Fred X. It's all about the bird.
All birds all the time. All birds all the time.
All About the Birds provides you with weekly analysis, game recaps, informative interviews, and it's all birds all the time.